Dave Parody here with another slide makeover video podcast based on the ideas in my book, The Visual Slide Revolution. Today's slide comes to us from a subscriber to the newsletter who sent the slide in and said, Dave, what can I do to make it clearer? He is the general manager responsible for sales for a professional services organization, and here's the slide he sent me. Now, of course, what I've done is I've removed identifying information, but what he uses this for, this is his sales funnel, and he talks to his staff each week about the changes in the number of organizations that are in each of the stages of this sales funnel. So when I look at this, the first question I have to ask is, what's the key point? Is this a good news or a bad news story? There's no way to know whether he wants to say, hey, folks, we did a really great job last week, or gee, we didn't do so well last week. And partly it's because there's total information overload. There is so much going on in this slide. There are the different colors, there's all the numbers, and what I removed is actually each of those numbers has a company name going down the left-hand side. So it gets even busier when you actually see the real slide. There's these arrows flying all over the place. Don't know exactly how we're supposed to interpret or deal with that. So what we need to do is we need to deal with the overload of information by breaking this up into the component parts. So let me show you what I did to change this slide around so I think it's going to be easier for him to explain each week and to have the relevant discussions with his staff. So here's what I've done. Slide starts out with a headline that says net loss of 6 companies in the last week. That's the ultimate story that we want to tell here. Was it a good or bad week? Well, net loss of 6 companies usually doesn't mean it's going to be a good week. And then we've set up a table where we look at each stage and say how many companies are in that stage, how many did we add or lose in that week, and what the net was. So we can now have the discussion. In the early discussion stage, we have 15 right now. We added 1, lost 2, so our net is down 1. We can have a discussion about why that happened. What are we doing in the prospecting area? Then we can talk about the developing proposal stage. Here we see that we're down 4. And what I'm doing here on the net is I'm certainly putting the number, but instead of putting a plus or minus, I am using a visual, that arrow pointing in this direction of either, in this case, loss, or in the next category, it's a gain of 3 in the proposal submitted category. And similarly, I can do each of the other categories. Now, how I've done that is I've actually built the table, and then I just put a white box over each of the last 4 columns. And so then I use exit animation to reveal the information as I want to. So I would do this as slide number 1. Slide number 2, and further to that, would then be analysis of losses and action plan for the next week. There's a number of different ways you can do this, so let me just talk about some of these. You could have text slides where you analyze each organization. Why did we lose them? What are we going to do, for example, in the prospecting area to get more companies coming into the top of the funnel? So you could do it in text slides. But if you're keeping all this information in other formats, you can link right to those other formats. So you could link to an Excel document. Let's say a lot of this is coming out of an Excel document where you've got spreadsheet and analysis of what the value of each customer is. You can link directly to that with a hyperlink right off of your PowerPoint slide. If it's in a Word document, let's say it's in a table, you can do that. Or if you are using a customer management system that is either web-based or another application, you can link directly to that out of your PowerPoint slide. So every week, what this general manager has the ability to do now is to focus his team clearly on, here's what the overall week was like, and then let's deep dive in and analyze what happened, what can we do in the next week to make our results better. Lessons from this particular makeover. What this makeover is showing changes between different time periods. In this case, it's last week to this week. Some of the lessons we need to keep in mind when using slides to show these changes. First of all, you need to show whatever the relevant numbers are for your situation. Most of the time that's going to be what's the total in this category or area, and what are the changes, what have the changes been. Next, when you're talking about the direction, instead of using a plus or minus sign, use the type of visual that I used, a little arrow pointing up or down, and you notice green or red I also used to show the direction, as well as the color reinforces that direction. When you're revealing information, especially in a table, tables are hard to animate in PowerPoint unless you break them up into a series of text boxes, and again that gets a little difficult. An easier way to do it is to use exit animation. Put a box on there and then exit, take it off to reveal the information underneath. And the final lesson is make sure you are breaking up your information so that you give the overview so people know what the big point is, and then you can drill down. This is very consistent with kind of a breakdown and zoom in type of a technique that I've talked about in the workshops that I do, so that people have context and then they know what the deep dive is and they can understand what do we need to do to change the performance in the next time period. So if you want more information on the book, go to www.visualsliderevolution.com. For more information on training, consulting, video products, the content templates, go to www.ThinkOutsideTheSlide.com. This has been another Slide Makeover video podcast with Dave Parody. We'll see you next time.